Mr. President! Mr. President, your reaction!
That is Joe Biden obviously not wanting to answer questions about the new indictments against Hunter Biden, which I think, considering they just came down and it's about his son and the particulars of their relationship, is sort of understandable. Why the reporter sounded like getting an answer to this question is a life and death thing is less understandable, but I'm sure we will get some sort of response at some point. And while we're waiting for that, why don't we dive into what these new indictments actually say and what sort of future might be there for Hunter Biden. So we have 9 federal tax charges coming down on Hunter Biden from a California grand jury. So those are tax related, and they're now going to be added to the gun charges that he was already facing. The overview of this is that basically prosecutors say that Hunter Biden failed to pay about $1.4 million in federal taxes between 2016 and 2019, and instead spent the money on an incredibly lavish and, let's just put it out there, awesome life. We'll break all of that down for you and you can decide for yourself. But of the new 9, 3 are felonies, 6 are misdemeanors. They include allegations that he failed to pay taxes, failed to file, evaded an assessment, and filed a fraudulent form. And we're gonna try to get through as much of that as we can. But understand that while the specifics might be interesting or surprising, the fact that there are more indictments, that is not by itself necessarily surprising. Ever since his previous plea deal fell apart, it seemed pretty clear that there were gonna be some charges. So we're gonna get into more of the specifics about how money was spent and all of that. But I wanna start with you, Rayyvana. What was your immediate reaction when you saw 9 new indictments against the president's son?
It wasn't surprising just given how things had been playing out, but it is unusual. So before that plea deal fell apart, before the judge refused to sign it, Hunter Biden sat in a court and said that he did not pay his taxes. He admitted to having done that, which is standard for a plea deal, for a plea agreement. That's what you have to do. You have to admit that you did the thing. And so he did. And then the judge didn't sign it, which is where it becomes odd, because now he's stated that he has committed this crime and they'll be able to use that statement against him now that these indictments have come down. It's also unusual because according to him and his attorneys, he's paid back all of the taxes that he owed. Over 2 years ago, apparently, he paid back all of the taxes he owed. So typically in cases like this, this level of prosecution only occurs when they're actively trying to recover the taxes that are due. If there's still an open tax bill, which seems not to be the case for him, which is why it wasn't very weird that he was gonna get this plea agreement. What's more unusual is the way that things have panned out. And I think the fact that his last name is Biden is 100% playing a role in the unfolding of these unusual events.
And like you said, since his last name is Biden, I think it's likely that all throughout 2024, if not certain, Hunter Biden's going to stay in the news as an attempt, to kind of do a whataboutism with what's going on with Trump. As we know, he has 91 felony charges, 4 indictments. I'm sorry, he has so much stuff going on. I get it scrambled sometimes. This isn't gonna move or shift anybody when it comes to the general election turnout. But I mean, hey, if he's done something wrong, then go through the process. If they find something and he has to pay a price for it, whatever that may be, if he has to pay a fine, if he has to go to prison for a year or 2, whatever that may be, this just really isn't an issue that the general public really is attached to. But it's something that obviously we have to follow because it's real and it's actually happening. I think Biden should probably continue to just kind of not address it too much unless something serious happens. But what's really the point?
I agree with you that I don't think there are a lot of persuadable voters that are thinking how I vote in 2024 is gonna come down to what I end up thinking about these charges. I don't think so. I do think there are a lot of people that will tell you that this is the most important issue in the world. I think that if you were able to dive into their soul and their psyche, you would find that this is just standing in for the crimes they wish they could find out that Joe Biden did. And in the absence of that, I guess we've got the tax thing and some gun things. Virtually every one of these conservatives, by the way, think that going after like Trump and his family for tax issues is totally illegitimate, and how dare the government get involved in guns. But suddenly when it's Hunter Biden, it's a valid issue. I think they're both valid issues. I personally think that if Hunter Biden broke the law, he should go to jail. He's not my brother, he's not my husband. I have no attachment to him. It's weird how everybody gets super attached to politicians and figures related to politicians that they don't know. But anyway, I do want to make sure that our audience knows what is being alleged as we cruise towards a possible trial. So you should know that coming out of this indictment, 56 pages, Hunter Biden is alleged to have earned about, or slightly more than $7 million between 2016 and 2020 from foreign business deals, including payments for his service on the board of Burisma, the fossil gas company of Ukraine, as well as his work for a Chinese energy conglomerate. And by the way, if you want to have some issues with that, I largely don't have an issue with that. I don't know what supposed expertise he's supposed to have in literally any of that stuff. But that doesn't mean that you don't have to prove that Biden did something illegal if you want him to be impeached for it. But in addition to the $7 million, he also got $1.2 million in 2020 and spent the money to fund what is called an extravagant lifestyle, including drugs, escorts, and girlfriends. I believe they're called assorted women in the document, exotic cars, and clothing. So kind of like a George Santosian sort of lifestyle there. But that apparently came from a personal friend, the $1.2 million. He rented a lavish house in Venice, California, and also earned more than $140,000 in payments for his memoir, Beautiful Thing. So there's a lot of money being thrown around, and in theory, you'd have to spend a lot in taxes on that. You'd owe a lot. Instead of that, he failed to file taxes on time for a number of years. When he finally did file in 2018, the allegations are that he used false business deductions that reduced his tax liability, as well as misleading his accountant into filing returns that included items marked as business expenses when he allegedly was not doing business at that time. So there's delay in actually filing, and then also just flat out allegations, at least, of avoiding paying taxes by using a bunch of tricks to not do that. These sorts of tricks, by the way, to minimize or eliminate your tax obligation are the sort of things that rich Republicans do that poor Republicans are convinced makes them awesome, but in this particular case means that he's guilty. But anyway, let's just briefly mention some of the stuff the money was spent on. So there was money for a golf member deposit that was used to purchase, the actual money was used to purchase a membership in a sex club, but you can see how things are sort of being hidden there. And then just huge sums of money on a bunch of different categories that we talked about. So anything else about this, starting with you, Rayyvana, that strikes you as particularly interesting or that might influence how people perceive this?
Yeah, well, first I take umbrage with the claim that you made before we started discussing all of the things that he spent the money on, which is the idea that there's not a person who's a single issue voter and their single issue is Hunter Biden. I am that person. I go to the ballot box with nothing but Hunter on the mind. I think he's being unfairly persecuted. Dudes rock. That's your legal defense, Hunter. When you step in that courtroom, look at the judge dead in the eyes and say, dudes rock, okay? You're being persecuted for rocking too hard. I mean, I think that though you did make, jokes aside, I think you made an excellent point, John, that when rich Republicans do these sorts of, we'll call it finessing the tax system, they're celebrated as really intelligent individuals. I think that Hunter Biden's real crime here is that he had a bad accountant, or he didn't have an accountant at all, because he probably would have been able to finesse the system as so many other rich, privileged individuals do successfully. One, if he wasn't under, such a microscope and there wasn't so much scrutiny on him, not just because of his last name, but because of the other charges and the other other crimes, but he probably would have been able to get the same sort of lenient tax bill at the end of it if he had just hired a good accountant. If he spent a little less money on his assortment of women and a little more money on an assortment of accountants, he probably could have gotten away a little cleaner from this situation.
Oh, absolutely. He definitely could have gotten away with it cleaner, but also, look, at the end of the day, we said it when we first started. It's just because his last name's Biden. There's literally nothing else. I mean, as soon as all this blows away, he's going to be done. They're not going to be talking about him. But, I kind of dig the Dan Bilzerian type of lifestyle. I can't even lie. You feel me? And it's not, MTG she done already shown his junk all on the floor of Congress. You know what I'm saying? So maybe Hunter Biden needs to go ahead and open himself up an OnlyFans. George Santos will be the first person to, go ahead and drop them fat tips on there. He'll make a killing. But yeah, it's a circus, and we'll stay tuned. But yeah, if he dodged taxes, then sure, let him pay the penalty, because we're not part of a cult like MAGA is.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, I love all the details that come out that make you just come away with the conclusion that like every conservative would at least like pretend that they hate this guy. They hate they've hated every step of this story. They've hated the nude photos, the pictures of him having sex and everything. Oh, they hate that stuff. They're not like just boiling over with jealousy for this lifestyle. If you took Hunter Biden and everything about his life and just named him Hunter Cross, they'd be paying $500 a month for his Alpha Academy seminar or something like that. If you put it on TikTok, they could not get enough of that content. But in this particular case, they have to pretend that they have a problem with it. If he was Hunter Biden going his own way, they would be like an insatiable hunger for it. But does he have a red pill? That's what I want to know.
If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.